Jamal Jeffers is a practising barrister at KCH Garden Square Chambers in Leicester and Nottingham, specialising in family law. Having moved to Barbados as a teenager, Jamal returned to the UK to study for his Law LLB at Montfort University and graduated in 2010 before being called to the bar in 2012. He is passionate about improving access to the legal profession and sits on the Midland Circuit Social Mobility Committee, as well as being a founding member of the Black Minority Ethnics at the bar. Jamal was made a Deputy District Judge in 2022, and at the time of his appointment was the youngest black judge to have ever been appointed in England and Wales. Welcome, Jamal.
Thank you for having me.
So you were born and raised in Tottenham. What inspired you to choose to study in Leicester?
Tottenham and Leicester are two very, very different places, but both my parents were born in Leicester. And so I have extended family here as well. And I'd been in Barbados for a number of years before I started university, and I thought, well, if I'm moving far away from home, I need to be close to people that are close to me. And I've known the city since I was a kid. So I thought, well, Leicester's a perfect place for me, which is why I came back.
Perfect. Lovely.
And haven't left.
Oh, that's a good sign. So did you always want to work in law?
Law has been, I think, the thing that I've wanted to do forever. I've always wanted to do other things, but law tends, when I was younger, even growing up, it was the thing that stuck in the mind. I didn't know any lawyers, but I was an argumentative little child. I used to like to debate. But equally, my mum always used to tell me that when I was, even at school, I'd take up the cause for other people. And it seemed the more natural path for me. But though I wanted to go into aviation, and I think in reality, being cabin crew might have been more fun, but I've enjoyed being a lawyer.
Slightly different. Maybe.
Slightly different.
Although still a lot of conflict resolution, I would have thought.
A lot of conflict resolution and maybe more glamorous places to be.
Can you remember your first day at university?
I can. So it would have been summer 2007, we came back to the UK for a couple of weeks just before I started uni. And my parents had to go back because my sister started school before university started. So my uncle and my cousin helped me to move in, and I was at Bede Hall. And I remember being so nervous and so excited. So it was like 6 a.m. and I was like, let's go. It's like Christmas. So I got in first. I was the first one in my flat, basically. And I'd unpacked all of my stuff and then was sat there for about an hour going, where is everyone else? Why am I sat by myself? But, our hall was quite fun, actually. So it was 10 of us all in one block, and one by one, everyone joined. And I thought, I need to make some friends here. So I'll try and help people move in, and that'd be the easiest thing to do. And thankfully it kind of worked. But yeah, first day was exciting, nervous, but I loved it.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And I guess it helped that you knew the city.
Yeah. So that evening, there was somebody also that knew the city. So a lot of the other freshers went to the SU, and we decided, no, let's go actually out into town. It was like the big wide town. And so that was quite fun. And we felt like we had unlocked something different to other people.
Awesome.
Which was all quite great.
So when you took those first steps on campus, I suppose when you arrived and you're on your own and you're waiting for everybody to arrive, could you have imagined where you are now at that point? No.
It's the years since being at university to now seem to have flown by, but I've been so fortunate in that I've had, support from so many different people, and managed to find myself in the right place for certain things. And if I think back to 18-year-old Jamal, he wouldn't think that he'd be a judge. He wouldn't think that he'd be, fighting the cases and doing the things that I'm currently doing. But actually, I'm glad that I didn't, because it meant that I was able to just go on by myself and do the things that I wanted to do, rather than feeling a little bit of pressure to do better, essentially.
Yeah. And so you talk then about fighting cases. That's obviously something that drives you, and you sort of found yourself in family law. What attracted you to that?
DMU has a massive part to play in why I chose family law. So I came to university and I was like, I'm going to be a commercial barrister. I'm going to go sit in the city, make loads of money, and that's all I want to do. And in my second year, I did family law as a module. And I remember going to my second lecture of that and thinking, oh, there's a light bulb moment here. Everything here fits. Everything kind of works. And so I spoke to a lecturer afterwards. I went to one of her office hours and was like, I need you to tell me everything. I need you to help me because basically life is shifting around me because everything's changing. And she was like, well, if you like this, then take it up. And so I did the family law module. I did an international family law module in my third year. And yeah, I just said, this works. It's the juxtaposition of the law, which, you know, as nerdy as it is, I enjoy the black letter law, but also dealing with genuine and real people and their real lives. And it's a real pleasure. Each day, each new case, I have somebody who I've never met before and who has to trust me enough to be able to put their lives in my hands. And I don't take that for granted. And it's something that definitely drives me to keep going.
Mm. And I guess, do you feel like you make a difference? Is that important to you?
Sometimes it's quite trite for people to say, do you make a difference? Mm. But I genuinely do feel like I make a difference. And, you know, the area of law that I do is, I deal with child protection. And so those kind of cases are sad. Those kind of cases, something serious tends to have happened before they get to court. And what I'm trying to say is you don't always win those cases. That's the reality. But actually the difference that I can see being made and is just allowing people to understand where they've been, what their process is, how we get through and navigate through this relatively difficult and pretty alien process with a degree of dignity. And that is what drives me, definitely drives me.
That's lovely. So taking you back then to your time when you were at university, setting you up for this career, can you remember what Leicester was like back then? What was it like being a student in Leicester back in, what was it, 2007?
2007 to 10, yeah. Leicester back then was thriving, and it's thriving now, but it just felt, I don't know. I'd come from Barbados, so, an island of 200 at a time, 275,000 people, to Leicester. You know, so it felt massive, even though it's not. But which is part of the reason why I decided to come back to Leicester, because going back to London would have been, you know, far too big a jump. But Leicester felt like it had a vibrancy. It felt like everything was open for us. The high street was open. We had the two universities, and you know, there was just a real energy about the place, and I don't think, and it's quite difficult to know, but I don't think that I would have enjoyed the university experience anywhere else other than being here. The beauty was, you know, Sundays I'd trot off up London Road to my grand's and have dinner. So that was kind of helpful. But yeah, the city just felt like it was made for us to enjoy ourselves and made for us to, you know, live. And I got a couple of jobs and all of that was all quite good. Yeah, just open and available for us. That's
great. And did you, when you were at university, did you extracurricular things? Did you play any sports or join any clubs and societies?
I used to love rugby, and before I came to university, I played for the Barbados national team.
Oh, wow.
It sounds exciting. Well, yeah, you know what? Yeah. And I played for the Barbados national team, and that was fun. And I said, yeah, when I go to university, I'm going to take it up. I went to 3 training sessions. There were 2 broken legs in the first 2 training sessions, and I was like, no, I can't do this. I don't need to do this. But I enjoyed that insofar as I could. But it meant that I wanted to do some kind of sport. I wanted to do something to enjoy myself whilst at uni. So I tried something brand new, and I tried equestrian, and I joined the Equestrian Society out of nowhere. And off I trot to Witham Villa Stables every Thursday and went jumping, and it was so much fun, like so much fun.
I love that. I think, isn't that brilliant? Like, university can often be the place that you do something you've not ever done before or wouldn't ever have the opportunity to do before.
Like it was never on my radar, but I was like, oh, why not? And so I did.
Perfect. You talked earlier about having a sort of epiphany in a lecture about, wow, this is family law is kind of the thing that I'm really drawn to, and having a conversation with the lecturer afterwards, who was obviously probably quite a big person then in shaping what you chose to do. Are there any other individuals or people you met during your time at university that you still think now, wow, if it wasn't for them? Or
so also whilst I was studying, there was a former barrister called Louise Nielsen, and she's still a member of staff here now. And I imagine she thought I was an annoying 19-year-old, because I'd knock on her door almost every day and we'd have a chat. And I'd say, Louise, here's my CV. I need you to help me get this work experience. You need to help me to look at this. And to her credit, she was open and available to me whenever I needed her. And she, wrote references for me, helped me with scholarship applications. And I kind of grew up saying, I want to be like Louise. And it really helped. So that really, really helped me. And I think she was an incredible driving force to help me going on to doing the things I do now.
That's awesome. And what about friends? People often say they make their friends for life at university. Was that the case for you? Did you find a certain group and kind of meet friends? And are you still in touch with anybody now?
Yeah. So fortuitously, in the flat above me in Bede Hall, there was a girl that was doing the same course as me. So we met on the first day. We hit it off, and we became the best of friends. We were inseparable for the entirety of the 3 years at university, doing random things like walking down Mill Lane, screaming Dreamgirls whilst we were on our way to a lecture. But, that's who we were.
Love it.
And we absolutely, the two of us were inseparable. And I see her probably 3 times a year now, still, how long ago are we now? 14 years on. And one of my best friends, and I was best man at her wedding. And we are just so drawn to each other. And I met her in year 2 whilst I was at university, and we have been inseparable ever since. So I have met the people that who hopefully their friendship will take me through the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Whilst at uni.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Love that. So tell me a bit about, obviously you studied law, and a lot of that is very classroom based, lots of learning, lots of lectures, lots of seminars, but also I'm assuming you did some work experience and had career support while you were at university. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that kind of informed the choices you made? So
the uni were quite good in reaching out to the local lawyers network in Leicester. And so, forgive me, every so often we'd have wine and cheese evenings, and every so often they'd come in and we'd all be sat there in a suit going, I don't know how to speak to these people, but I have to because this is what they help me get through. But looking back at it, it's those things really helped me to understand is actually the world that we were trying to get into. And it was then and still is now a relatively formal world with, certain rules and certain traditions and that is kept to. But not just that, but we had, moots, which are essentially mock court cases that were sponsored by the local lawyers. So you were encouraged to go on and do those. And as I said, like Louise and all of the other tutors were able to just help you with anything that you were planning to make an application for. They'd push you and say, right, maybe think about this, maybe tweak this, or just signpost you to things that you hadn't thought about or seen. And that was it was empowering, because I think back then things weren't on the internet in the same way that they are now, and people weren't shouting from the rooftops about the things that they're doing. And so a lot of it would have passed me by. And if it had passed me by, I wouldn't have been able, essentially, to have that experience that would have helped me go on longer term.
That's great. And talking about, you just mentioned there, doing mock trials and things like that. Obviously, that's probably a fundamental part of training to be a barrister or a lawyer. So what was it like the first time? Were you nervous, excited, scared, wanting to run in the opposite direction? Like, how did that feel?
I remember the first time I ever did a moot, I was, in the lead up, incredibly nervous. And I thought, I don't know how to address this person. I don't know what to say. I was doing my research in the library, trying to get my law reports, trying to understand, what the case was, because it was something that felt alien to me. But on the day, I thought, hey, go on, Jamal, you got this. You can do it. Walked up, did what I needed to do, lost. But,
So you lost your first ever trial.
I lost my first ever trial. But it was all a learning experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's something that whenever I speak to students now, I say, you need to go and do this. Even if it's not because this is what you want to do, it will help you in the long run. It will help you with that confidence. It will help you with understanding who you are. Help you with understanding, how your voice sounds in a room and how you look at somebody whilst you're speaking to them. All of that is such vital experience. Do
you remember your graduation?
I do.
Tell me about it.
Graduation it genuinely felt like the culmination of everything great that had happened. We, at that time, were graduating at the Montfort Hall. And I remember having to go and pick up my gown, and mum and dad and my little sister with me. My mum is an avid amateur photographer, so there's probably about 1,000 pictures of our graduation. But, we were walking back up the University Road, gown flowing behind me. I was like, yeah, I've made it, I've done it. This is great. And again, sat in the hall, those feelings of nerves come back, because you're going, oh, crikey, all these people are here, all these people are watching. We've made it through these 3 years. But also, the biggest question was, well, what on earth is next? And that was quite scary as well. Quite, all right, you're not a child anymore. You graduated university, and the real world beckons. But we had a very inspirational speaker, Michael Belloff at KC, came and spoke at our graduation, and I think he received his honorary doctorate on that day. And I said, oh yeah, okay. I will not emulate you because I can't, but actually, what a wonderful way to try and help us get through and push us and inspire us to keep going. But I love my graduation. I really, really did.
That's awesome. You've stayed connected to DMU since you graduated, and you are a pro-chancellor for the university. So what does DMU mean to you?
DMU for me was the start. DMU meant that I was able to do the things that I wanted to do. And being here and graduating from here gave me that opportunity. And I've always said, when I left in 2010, and I said, right, I need to get to a point in my career where I'm able to make a difference. Well, first I need to get my career, then I need to get to a point in my career where I'm able to make a difference. And when I'm able to do that, I want to be able to give back. And often, especially in my field, it's felt that you needed to have gone to some of the more older, some of the more traditional universities in order to be able to get into where you want to. And I've often said that's probably not true. The reality is the people that are closer to the ground, who understand what's going on, who are empathetic, who have the abilities and the skills and all the same levels of opportunity as others, are at other universities, and we need to give them that chance. And so my whole drive, since probably about my second year into my career, was to make sure that other people had the same opportunities that I had whilst I was at university, and to level out that playing field a little bit. And so if that meant that I'd have people come and shadow me or shadow others, or pester judges to allow them to come and sit with them for a week, or read over people's CVs and do the same thing of pushing them to do applications and to make applications for scholarships, then I would do that. And for me, that must have been something that was spurred on from being here at university, because people were doing that for me whilst I was here. So I felt, now that I'm in that position, I must be able to do that for others as well.
How do you fit it all in?
I don't actually know. I don't actually know. It takes quite a lot of organisation, quite a lot of calls saying, I'm going to be 15 minutes late because I've just finished this one meeting and I'm heading off to the next. But it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. I don't know if I'll be able to do it forever, but one that I'm willing to make right now, for sure.
So I mentioned in my intro that in 2022, you were made the youngest Deputy District Black Judge. That's right, isn't it? And in that same year, you were also named as Nottinghamshire Law Society's first ever Equality and Diversity Champion. They're pretty big accolades. What's that? Is that 12 years after you graduated?
12 years after graduation, 10 years after entering the profession. And... both carry a weight of responsibility. I applied to become a deputy district judge because I wanted, I'd often said, being a judge is something that is almost the next level, the next step. And I wanted to be able to do that. I had no notion or idea that at that point, I'd get it, but if I did get it, that I'd be the youngest black person to have ever been appointed. For me, that feels wild, absolutely wild. But when and I went over a year-long process of applications and vetting, and when they told me that I'd been appointed, I was over the moon. For myself, I then called my parents. It would have been 4 a.m. in the morning where they were, and I called them, and I recall just my dad. My mum was beside herself, but my dad just saying to me, Jamal, you don't quite understand what this means. And as he said it, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know what it means. So, become a judge, it's cool. Like, let's realize. He was like, no, you don't quite understand what this means. And I say the misfortune, but I have the misfortune of being almost the identical twin of my father. And so as they grew up in the city, all of his friends and people that he knows know me because I look exactly like him. But in the weeks and months that followed, people would just come up to me and were like, Jamal, your dad's told us, and this is incredible. I tried not to have that and the Nottinghamshire stuff as a weight, because the reality is I would have done the work and I'd have done the things that I wanted to do because of it. Because I was passionate about making a change, and I still am passionate about making a change. My goal is just to be not remembered for any accolade or anything, but just remembered for being a fair judge, someone who's good at the job, a good barrister, and someone who just plows on. And I hope that, in the not too distant future, things and achievements that I've been able to make go unremarked, because then we just live in normal times, and we're getting there slowly but surely, but we are getting there. But yeah, they are big and they are quite heavy.
Yeah, but also things to be incredibly proud of. Yeah. So you've talked a bit there about sort of the legal profession and I guess it's accessibility and diversity. So what would you say to any student of a minority ethnicity still unsure as to whether or not this profession is the one for them? What would your advice to them be?
Look, the thing that I say to anybody is if you, feel that your face doesn't fit, you feel that you are slightly different from what you anticipate the stereotype to be, ignore it. Because the stereotype was written and was there to fit a world that we don't currently live in. If you want it, go for it. Be quite clear about the ramifications about the applications that you're making. Be quite clear about the realities of the applications that you're making, because, the bar is incredibly difficult to get into. It doesn't mean that you can't get into it. It just means it's incredibly difficult, and you need to be aware of that, because there are all kinds of things that there are setbacks for, finances being the biggest one of those. Whilst I went to bar school, the bar school year cost me in excess of £15,000, and I had to take a commercial loan for £25,000 because I couldn't work at the same time and pay that off. That was extortionate. And I don't mind telling you, it was quite difficult to pay off at the time. You saddle yourself with even more debt at 21. But there were scholarships available, and there were a plethora of scholarships available now, much more than they were back then, and much more aimed at the idea of increasing representation, increasing diversity, increasing inclusivity within the profession. So if you hit any of those spheres, make those applications, because they're there for you. And people like myself are accessible and are wanting to spur you on. So don't feel as if you can't do it. It's open. It might be hard. It might be difficult. There are challenges that I've faced during the course of my career. Of course there are. But it's never deterred me. And I would hope that it never deters anybody else. Genuinely hope that.
If you could speak to your 17-year-old self and give them one piece of advice about making their university choice, what would you tell them?
Go where you feel comfortable.
Lovely.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jamal. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.